Unit 5, review. I'm going to make another go at this. I had a failed attempt earlier. My brain destroyed itself. All right, so what we're going to look at are kind of types of goods, and we have kind of 4 different categories of goods out there that we're going to deal with. And it's mainly based on, or actually it's entirely based on these kind of 2 different models. The first is, are these goods excludable? Meaning, can you stop someone from using these goods? And usually it's through the payment of money. So some goods are excludable and some are not. Some goods, there's a rivalry in consumption, meaning if I use that good, that means it's kind of gone forever and nobody else can get it. So rivalry in consumption. And or not rival in consumption, meaning there's, plenty out there. Sunshine is sort of unrivaled, and my use of sunshine doesn't take away your use of sunshine. So let's get it. So the kinds we describe in the kind of section here, or the on the page, are common goods, also called common resources. And these are the types of goods where these are not excludable, meaning anybody can go get them. And these are also rivalry in consumption, meaning once I use this good, it's gone forever in consumption. So some examples. Consumption. Sure. Anyway, so examples would be like fish in the ocean. A fish in the ocean, once I catch that fish, it is gone. I have got it and I've eaten it, and you're not getting that fish because it's in my belly. Also, it's kind of not excludable because the ocean is vast. It is monstrous. It's massive. Anybody can get a boat and go out into the ocean and catch a fish. Other bits of this are kind of water is probably a good example. There is a rivalry in consumption. If I divert all the water and you live downstream, you're not getting any of my water. Also, kind of, it's not it should be excludable, but about 100 years ago, it wasn't. And the city of Los Angeles came and took lots of water from the Mono Basin and sent it to Los Angeles, and they still do, effectively draining Mono Lake. So water is kind of fits into this as well, and also a really trafficy highway. So traffic, nobody can really stop me from getting onto the highway. It's not excludable. But if the traffic is so busy that we're all crammed into this little tiny space trying to go places, we all wind up going, 3 miles an hour, and it takes me, forever to get to work, and I show up late. Trouble. So common goods, not excludable, and there is a rivalry in consumption. The next one on here was club goods. Also, I think the book might have called them toll goods as well. So a club good is it is excludable, meaning usually means you've got to pay for it. Okay, usually costs money. And it winds up being shared. So because it's shared, there's sort of no rivalry in consumption. Meaning no real rivalry. We can all kind of use it at the same time. Okay, so examples of these, seats in a theater, right? We all kind of share the experience. We sit in the theater all together, but you had to pay money to get it, so it ticks that box. But it's excludable because you had to pay money. Okay, unless you can get a friend of yours to hold the emergency exit open, you sneak in, huh? Yeah, huh? Or you hide in the bathroom in the multiplex. You've all done that one, right? Don't do that. You're stealing from the theater. Ugh. Other ones would be public parks, if they're not too crowded. Again, and then uncongested roads are part of this one too, especially, well, actually, let's say toll roads. So toll roads fit under this. There are some roads, if you want to go from here to there, or some bridges, you can cross the bridge for $2, or you can go all the way around and take 3 hours to get from here to there. So toll roads fit into this as well. Our next one. So we have public goods, and these are things that are usually, or maybe should be, provided by the government, because public goods have a problem. And this is that kind of anyone can use them. So they are shared. There is no rivalry. I'm kind of doing it both rivalry, sure, whatever. And they're not excludable, meaning anybody can get them. There's no real price we put on these. So examples of this are things like, let me scoot this up a little more. Examples here are national defense is kind of the one big one. National defense. So the military, if the military wants to defend our country, they have to defend the whole thing. They can't really go, we're going to defend everyone except for, Nevada, because reasons. So it is shared. Everybody shares in it, and it is not excludable. So national defense is a good one. Street lights, right? Right. As you walk down the street and you don't pay that, you don't pay taxes in that particular town or state, the street lights still stay on for you. And then again, all these other things that sort of go with kind of roads without traffic, roads. So roads, if they're not too trafficy, the road, 395 most days, it is shared and not excludable. There's plenty of space on there, and nobody's stopping you. Nobody's checking your, license plate as you get on the freeway. And then the final one are private goods, pure private goods, and these are things that they're excludable. You got to pay for them. And there is a rivalry in consumption, meaning they are yours and yours alone. Rivalry, meaning they are not shared. So things like a haircut, which I could use right now. So a haircut is excludable. You got to pay for it. They don't just give anybody free haircuts. And rivalry, meaning that is my haircut. I am not sharing it, and I am the only one in the the barber's chair at that moment. So this is my haircut and mine alone. Slice of pizza, right? You can share an entire pizza, but a pizza slice, I am not sharing that with you. It's mine. Get off my pizza. Leave me alone. So there's a rivalry in consumption. It's mine, and it's excludable. I had to buy it. Okay, I had to pay money for it. Even if I make my own, I've got to go buy the ingredients. An ice cream cone fits here. A loaf of bread fits here. So private goods tend to be things that you would buy in a store. Public goods tend to be things that the government provides. And then these others, again, we have some back and forth on what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. Should there be regulation? Should there be kind of taxes or whatever that the government needs to put on there? All right, next, this idea of externalities. And an externality is a transaction between person A and person B where other people feel effects. There are kind of other effects from the transaction. And sometimes these effects are positive and sometimes they're negative. Okay, so even though, for example, I go into the store and let's start with negative externalities. And I go and buy a bunch of cigarettes and I smoke them like crazy and smoke everywhere. That is just a transaction between the, convenience store and me. They gave me cigarettes, I gave them money, that's great, we're done. Oh, except the smoke that I'm going to produce has other effects. So it is going to make everybody around me a little smelly. If you're around me often enough, you're going to get lung cancer just like I am. If you're in a restaurant smoking, you're going to make everybody's food taste like ashes. It's gross. Ask your grandparents about smoking in restaurants. It used to be a thing. Really, sort of any sort of pollution fits under this, right? If a factory decides, we're just going to dump, waste into the river, there are other effects downstream. Noise fits into this, right? If I have a big giant party, um, I had a great time and so did all my guests, but my neighbors hate me now because I kept them all up. And in general, these things are occurring, these negative effects. If there's a supply and a demand for these products, for my party or for cigarettes or for whatever else, really the price should be higher, and the supplier, should be kind of forced to pay for these in some way, shape, or form. So we often say that these things with negative effects are oversupplied. Okay. Positive externalities, on the other hand. So positive externalities, right now you are listening to my soothing voice giving you an explanation of externalities and gaining you an education, right? It seems like this is just between us. However, your future boss is going to go, you know a little bit about externalities, and you're a critical thinker, and you know a little bit about the way the world works. That's great, and it's going to help my business be better that you are educated. I like the fact that you can read, write, and solve problems. That's awesome. I will pay you more money. You will be more productive and make me more money in return. So even though it's just a transaction right now between me and you, right, over your headphones or through your computer speakers, this will benefit somebody down the line. Other positive externalities are things like vaccines, right? If I get vaccinated, hey, I don't get the flu, but that also means I can't carry the flu and I don't get anybody else sick either. So positive externalities tend to be there's our supply and demand for education. However, they should be demanded more because, your boss doesn't keep in mind what we're doing right now, right here. They just want to know what you can do right now. So positive externalities tend to be for products that are under demanded. Okay, and they should have a higher price and we should be producing more of them. But we don't always. All right, the last couple boxes here are on, so pollution cleanup, for example. This idea of pollution cleanup, when it comes to marginal social cost and marginal social benefit, really, when it comes to, here, actually, I'll get a whole new thing here. So if we're talking about pollution, it's this notion that marginal social cost, how much does cleanup cost us? And there's varying levels of cleanup you can do, right? So how much does clean up, oh, I can't spell today, cost? But if you've listened to these, you know that I can't spell on any day, whatever. So how much does this cleanup cost? And again, there's varying, I can get it really clean, or I can get it, just so it doesn't smell anymore. I still wouldn't drink it. And then there's levels in between, right, where the water's still a little murky, but it's drinkable. It's drinkable, but it won't kill you. It's maybe a little murky, but it's totally safe, or it's pristine, crystal clean. So there's various levels of this, and because there's various levels, how clean do we want it? How clean is it worth to us? And we kind of weigh that against the marginal social benefit. And the marginal social benefit is how much do we value this cleanup? So how much do we value cleanup? So is it okay to have kind of murky water that doesn't get us sick? Or do we want it perfect? And what we wind up doing is we have basically the marginal social benefit. This is our demand for cleanup, and our marginal social cost, which is our supply of cleanup. We're going to meet somewhere in here, and we're going to get things. We're going to pay this amount, and we're going to do this much cleanup. We're going to get it that clean. So there's sort of this equation. What does it mean to us? And how much are we willing to pay for it? And you've all kind of done this. I want this, I've kind of dented my car and gone, oh, I want this thing good as new. It's going to cost $10,000. I want it pretty good, so you can't really tell the dentist here, okay, that's going to cost $1,000. I can handle that. So how much do we value the cleanup, and how much is it going to cost us? That's what we're looking for there. And then the last bit on taxes. So this was in, I think, one of the last activities we did. 3 types of taxes. First off is the effective tax rate. And the effective tax rate is kind of the percent of income you pay in taxes. So a percent of income taxed. So if I'm making, $100,000 and there's a 10% tax, and I'm, my effective tax rate is 10%, that means I'm paying 10% of, multiply this by 0.1, my effective tax rate, and I pay $10,000 in tax. That equals 10%. Okay. 8%, it's $8,000. So my effective tax rate is just how much tax am I actually paying. And we wind up with 3 different types of taxes. We have a progressive tax. And a progressive tax means the more money you make, the higher percentage you pay. So higher income, higher income pays a higher percentage. And the opposite is true. Lower income people pay a lower percentage. Higher percent. Okay, and lower income people pay a lower percent. So this would be a system where maybe if you're really poor, you pay 0 in taxes, 0%. You're sort of middle income, you pay 10% in taxes out of your income. And if you're really wealthy, making $1 million or $10 million a year, you pay 20 or 30 or 40% of your income in taxes. And that's a progressive tax rate. Wealthy people don't like it. The next is a proportional tax. Proportional, and this means everyone pays the same percentage. Everyone pays same percent. Oh, that's a mess. So everybody pays the same percentage, meaning, if I'm making $10,000 a year, I pay 10%. If I'm making $1 million a year, I pay 10%. So if I'm making $1 million, my 10% is going to be more money, but it's the same percentage. And then the last one is a regressive tax. And a regressive tax means higher income people pay a lower percentage. And this is one of those things that you would think, well, that doesn't sound fair or nice. They have more income. They should pay either the same or maybe even higher. I don't know. So a regressive tax, though, it does wind up happening quite a bit, especially when we come to sales tax, is really a lot of times a regressive tax because if you're poor, you tend to pay more money for food, or a higher percentage of your spending every month is likely on food. So because you pay more on food, then you're going to wind up paying a higher percentage than somebody who's wealthy and doesn't spend all their money on food. So that's that. So those are the types of taxes. And then one last graph to finish us off. So we did this in another section, but I'll do it again right here. The effect of a tax. So here is, I'm just going to draw a supply and demand curve. So there's my demand, there's my supply. And what happens is, let's say the government sets and here's my equilibrium quantity, or equilibrium price is right here. There's my price. There's the amount that people are going to buy, my quantity, because I'm at equilibrium. So the best way to show a tax is, let's say, a $1 tax. What this does is it's going to decrease our supply. It's kind of the easiest way to show this. So we're going to have a new supply curve. Call this ST for tax. And we wind up, this is the price that people are going to pay. So this is the price. Price for the buyers. And down here, if I follow this down, this, and I'm going to follow this across, this is the price the sellers are going to collect. Okay, so, and the amount here, so this amount right here, it's kind of hard to see in the yellow, this amount is the amount of the tax. So this is my $1 tax. So this space right here equals $1. So the amount of the tax is that amount right here, this difference between these two numbers. This amount goes to the government. So this part in the middle right here is tax revenue. So this is the tax revenue paid to the government, this yellow box. And the top part of the box, we can divide this further. This is tax paid by the buyers. Buyers, oh man, this is a mess. And this is the tax on the sellers, tax paid by the sellers. So because I drew my lines nice and kind of at 45-degree angles to each other, yeah, that's close enough. The tax is kind of equal, okay? Looks in my little example here, the buyers are paying about the same as the sellers, but consider for a moment what would happen if demand was more, what if demand is more elastic? Okay, then we're going to have different situations here. What if the supply was really inelastic? The other thing to consider right here is the consumer surplus used to be this whole big giant triangle right here. That was all consumer surplus. That consumer surplus has shrunk now. It's just this. Same thing with producer surplus down low. It used to be this big triangle down here, but now it's just this triangle right here. So my consumer surplus and producer surplus both shrink. And then we also get this other phenomenon right here. I'm making a giant mess of this, called dead weight loss. Actually, let me use the marker. And dead weight loss is reflected by this triangle right here. So this triangle right here, dead weight loss, this is a piece of the economy that just disappeared. This used to be sellers and buyers kind of buying more stuff and making more money. The other thing that happens is we have a new quantity. So people are just going to buy less of this because it costs more. So dead weight loss is this bit of the economy that vanishes, this triangle right here. All right, that's it. Show's over. Nothing more to see. Bye, everybody.